Everybody, Sean Chandler here with my review of Jack Ryan Season 2. Go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your take on the second season of Jack Ryan, or the Jack Ryan character in the filmed format, however you want to talk about it. Let's have a nice lively discussion down below. If you're going to go into any spoilers, just give a little spoiler warning right beforehand. As for me, when it comes to the Jack Ryan character, I've never read any of the books or listened to the audiobooks or anything like that, but I've been a big fan of the movie series going all the way back to the early 90s when I saw Clear and Present Danger in the theater and just thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've been watching all the movies and renditions ever since. So when they announced they're going to do a series with John Krasinski as Jack Ryan, as a massive Office fan, as a massive Jack Ryan fan, as a massive John Krasinski fan, I was very excited to check it out and thoroughly enjoyed the first season. And I'm happy to say I might have liked the second season even more than the first, especially the last half of this season. I think is the best 4 episodes of the 2 seasons that they've done thus far. I mean, it just absolutely sucked me in. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. And I've got a whole lot of positives to say about this show. I'm a big fan of spy, action, thriller TV shows. One of my favorite shows of all time is 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. And this show provides a whole lot of what I loved from that show, which is kind of these tightly woven political action thriller type plot lines that have a little bit of politics inside of it, some investigation, and plenty of action. And they're set up in a way that it's just kind of, you're in on the story, edge of your seat from beginning to end. And that's what this one felt like. You've got the setup in the first episode where you kind of see the pieces kind of fit together. And by the second one, kind of the action kicks in and it only kind of gets more tense and more edge of your seat as it goes along. And for me, the first 4 episodes is a little bit kind of slower as they're putting the pieces in place. There's some cool action inside of there. And then as soon as you hit that episode 5, I only meant to watch 1 episode that night. I was going to like kind of space it out. Watched episode 5, got to the end of it, like, oh, I got to see what's going to happen next. And watched 6, and I was like, there's no way I'm stopping now. And then it finished that one. And then it's like, there's 2 more episodes left. Well, looks like I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep. It was that type of season for me. Very binge-worthy. Just sucked me in. I had to see what was going to happen next. And they just kind of wove a story that had great cliffhangers at the end of each episode that just kind of made you want to see what was going to happen next. And then the next episode kind of teased what you're going to get in that episode and kept me going. And so we legitimately watched 4 episodes straight late into the hours of the night. Also, what I thought worked for this season a little bit better than the first one is I think it was a little bit more streamlined in the story. There's a lot of different moving pieces and mystery and who's doing this and why are they doing it. But it's done in a way that becomes more linear in nature, whereas last season it kind of kept cutting away to some of these subplots with characters that you're like, where's this going? And they didn't entirely go anywhere. And then there's a big romance subplot with Jack Ryan. And this season they kind of went like, all right, let's clear some of that out and let's just do this story about Jack Ryan, Moscow, Venezuela, and the investigation involved inside of it. I thought that worked nicely. There's also a whole bunch of really cool action sequences throughout the whole season. As I mentioned before, I'm a huge fan of the movie Clear and Present Danger. And this season had a number of different sequences, like kind of plot lines inside of it that were very reminiscent to me of Clear and Present Danger. It's not the same story as Clear and Present Danger. Certainly not the film. Maybe there's some ties back to the book that, as I mentioned before, I haven't read. But you watch it and you're like, oh, this is like the sequence from that, but in the good way, not like you felt like it was ripping it off. But there's like an ambush early on. I believe episode 2 is when it happens, or maybe episode 1 is even actually kind of right out of the gate. You get it, and it's just a very cool sequence there. There's some jungle stuff that's very reminiscent of a plot line inside of Clear and Present Danger, and then even the finale has some elements of a rescue and stuff like that that are very cool. So, all sorts of action. The stuff that I wanted from this one, some great Jack Ryan moments, and then the action, the thrills, the mystery, the intrigue. I got all of those different things that I wanted inside of it. As I mentioned, the show does drop kind of the romantic subplot from season 1. So the Abby Cornish, she just not at all back in the season, not really even mentioned. There's just like a subtle line to make it clear that he doesn't have someone back at home. But they add a bunch of new characters into the mix that I really enjoyed. Michael Kelly, one of these actors, you've probably seen him in a ton of stuff. He's been in Man of Steel, Dawn of the Dead, but he's been around and all kinds of stuff forever. Loved his character inside of this season, who's kind of a higher up that's giving orders to Jack Ryan and trying to stop them from doing certain stuff, while at the same time not trying to stop them. Like, he's all in on what they're doing because he knows that they're heading in the right direction and he wants to be part of heading in the right direction. So the way the character kind of was like butting heads with them while enabling them and joining in with them, all the mix of it, I thought worked really nicely. And the way that they did it and had the payoffs with the choices that he makes, really liked what they did with him. There's also, I believe, the Marcus Bishop character that's kind of this boatman, and there's a group of, U.S. military guys involved with it. Really dug that whole plot line, the way that they did it, the characters, their interactions with one another. All in all, a season that started a little bit slow, like good, but slow, but it set up the pieces. So then, once you hit about episode 4, knocks over those dominoes, like I was just all in until the end of it. It just kept getting better and better, building the tension. I didn't want to turn it off, and all the way up until when it ended, and it definitely paid off for me. Let's move on to the negatives. Don't have too much to say here. First thing that comes to mind is that there's a subplot about a character named Max, who's kind of an assassin inside of the season, that it seemed like they had an idea that they really liked at the beginning of the season, but they couldn't figure out how it tied into the second half. And so it resolved kind of in a weird way. Even the way it kind of ties in the specific episode there, where they bring in a girl associated with him, that it just seemed like this seems like a weird rabbit trail in the middle of the season, and it seems like the rabbit trail is only here for the purpose of tying the loose ends off for this plot line so we can move on to what you're really interested in. So that was pretty weird the way it played out. It was kind of like the one plot line that it just seemed like they didn't know what they were doing with it inside of the season. The other one is there's kind of a spy girl character that maybe some of it was because of the way it played out in regards to my expectations because of the previous season. Seemed like kind of a weird direction to go with Jack Ryan and the way he interacts with her and the way she's used inside of the season. So I wasn't a huge fan of that character, and especially the way it's initially set up seemed pretty weird that this would kind of play it with Jack Ryan. But other than that, I really enjoyed the season. Remember to tell me what you thought down below in the comment section. Also, I ranked all of the Jack Ryan movies, I believe all 5 of them. You can see that right up here as soon as this video is done. Love to hear your take on all of those movies. As for this season, if you enjoy action political thrillers in general, like John Krasinski, it's for all of you. Just a really nice season. It kind of builds off the previous season, but you don't really need to have even seen season 1 to understand this one. You don't need to rewatch season 1 to be able to follow this one. It's a standalone story. The information that you need, it tells you very kind of quickly inside of the season. So it functions as a standalone really well if you want to check it out. Overall, I would say I highly recommend checking out season 2 of Jack Ryan. Thank you so much for watching. If you want that Jack Ryan video, it's right over there. Tell me what you thought down below in the comment section, and keep talking movies and TV too much.